True Crime Society podcast contains adult themes and violence and is not intended for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. And if you'd like to skip the intro or move to any specific part of the podcast, please refer to the timestamps listed in the episode description. Thank you. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the True Crime Society podcast with Stephanie and Olivia. I know I have made you guys wait. Right now it's March 27th, by the way. I've made you guys wait because I posted on 2025. I posted on Instagram when this comes out. It'll probably be like 2 weeks ago that I was pregnant, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, we can't wait to hear about it." And I was like, "Oh, but you're gonna have to wait because we already recorded the next week's episode." So I can finally say it. You guys can finally hear about it. It's been a big secret, but I knew it was getting to the point where I had to say something because, as some of you pointed out, there's been signs. There's been symptoms. One, I can't breathe to save my life. Mostly because it's not like I'm so big that I can't breathe. It's this crazy like pregnancy congestion and just general shortness of breath. Reading the research, even we just recorded an ad, is so hard and I can't breathe ever. So someone was like, I thought I noticed because you sounded a little more out of breath. I was like, girl, I have been. Also on Patreon, I was talking about how I've been like really into Sprite lately, which I'm a Diet Coke Zero girly. So who am I drinking Sprite?
Definitely signs.
So there's definitely some signs, but I'm happy to say that I'm pregnant. The word is out because that's also why for weeks I've had like nothing to talk about because I was so tired and miserable for a long time. I really wasn't doing anything. And then anything I did do would be like, oh, getting like ultrasounds, telling my family, doing some fun things like that. Obviously, I couldn't talk about it on here. So that's why Olivia had to steal the show the last few months and
had to make my life seem exciting.
Yeah, thankfully her life is exciting enough where we had things to talk about, and you went on vacation, so we had that too. So yeah, now it's nice to be back where I can freely talk about things and complain about things. I'm sure I'll have tons to complain about in the coming months, but if you didn't see my Instagram post, I'm due the end of August, having a boy. I did a Pokemon themed reveal, which was actually hilarious because if you didn't see it, I did the Team Rocket R onesie and it said prepare for trouble, because if you watched Pokemon or played the game, you know that they came and they said prepare for trouble. And how cute would it be if I was having twins, because then the rest of that phrase is and make it double, but I'm not having twins, there's just one. So I did it with the roses. I got a little custom Pokemon card that said it's a boy with the ultrasound. And it's funny because Olivia messaged me and she's like, what's the R mean on the onesie?
I saw that. I was actually in the car when I saw it and I thought, I feel like I'm missing something. I need, but I'll just ask you. You can tell I've never played Pokemon.
Yeah, just someone else did. A few people were like, is the R like a hint? And I'm like, guys, did not every single person around my age like play Pokemon or watch Pokemon? I still play Pokemon Go, even when like new Pokemon games come out. Like me and Michael still get them and play them. It's just kind of like a fun thing we do. And we were Team Rocket for Halloween, like in 2016 or 2017. So I don't know, just kind of a cute thing. I want to do something different because, no offense to like anyone else who's not as unique and cool as me. No, I'm just kidding, because it just comes off of saying it that way. I just want to do something different than the norm. So that's what I came up with.
I don't know if anyone remembers too, but like it's probably a few years ago now, we got a comment or like a review or something where they basically said Stephanie had such an unfulfilling life because she only had her cats and something like that. And so now I've seen a lot of comments were like, wow, Stephanie, you're finally fulfilled now.
It cracks me up like how many people remember that, which also just shows me how, one, it's cool to see how many people have like listened to us for that long, because that was like a while ago now.
I feel like it was maybe during COVID. Either way, it was definitely a few years ago. Yeah.
So I love that like some of us have been around that long, or at least listened that far back. That was really nice to see. And hilarious that it was such a wild comment for someone to say that people are like remembering how crazy that was.
And I feel like we haven't because you didn't even write anything about like now I can be fulfilled. Like people totally unprompted were like now you can have a fulfilling life. Well done.
I know, and it's funny because my Instagram, I only have like one Instagram, so it was just my regular Instagram my whole life. And then when we had the podcast, I started having more people follow me because I didn't feel like making a second one. So it's probably like people who I went to high school with and like they know I have a podcast but I've never listened, or like, why are all these people saying that to her? That's horrible.
Why are they all so mean? Did they really think that she was so unhappy before?
Yeah. But the original comment was like, Olivia has such a fulfilling life, married with children, just doing the amazing things. And Stephanie just talks about being alone in her apartment with her cats. I was like, oh, okay.
I wish I still had it on me because it was actually like it was so mean, but it was.
I'll have to. I can definitely find it if I try. I'm sure. But yeah, it was like, first of all, we're in a pandemic. Times are tough.
Don't make them even tougher.
Leave me alone. So yeah, we should find it so I can go back and find that person and be like, just so you know, I am now hilarious. Living a fulfilled life. Allegedly, apparently. So yeah, that is what's going on. Talk about a little bit more detail on Patreon, so I don't want to say like all the same things again. But yeah, I found out in December, so I've kept this a secret for a long time. Yeah. Someone, when I posted on my Instagram story that the onesie that I showed my family on Christmas, that was how I told them. They were like, girl, you've been holding out on us since December. And I was like, I know, it's been so hard.
You did very well to keep it under wraps.
I know, but it was tough because I just wanted to make, when I feel like I'm not performing my best, not that I'm like performing, but when I've just felt so tired and lazy and like run down that I wanted to like tell people that this was why, so they're not like, oh, Stephanie's like miserable, like she's really losing enthusiasm for the podcast and just really phoning it in. I want to be like, I'm not, like I still like podcasting and doing this, I'm just exhausted and tired and don't feel good. So happy it's all out there now,
out in the open.
Yeah, so what's going on with you? Anything exciting, or are you taking a break of sharing this week now that you've been forced to share every detail?
I've actually had a pretty quiet week, so it worked out well. Yeah, I don't really have much going on. I've got a few weeks till fall break. I messaged you the other day. We haven't done a weather update in a while, but it is getting darker in the mornings here now, obviously, because we're in fall. But like, so the other morning, like the sun was coming up when I was like, I don't get up early. It's like 6:30 is my alarm to we have to be out the door about 8. But the other morning, like 6:45.
I like how you say you don't get up early and you get up at 6:30.
Well, I feel like that's not super early compared to some people.
Like,
some of my friends get up at like 5 for the gym. I'm like, no way. I would never do that.
I wake up 10 minutes before I have to leave for work.
But yes, the sun was rising the other day at 6:45. I'm like, wow, well, I get to see the sunrise at least. That's good. Because usually like in summer, the sun comes up before 6 here. So anyway, yeah, definitely getting to fall. The weather's still been beautiful and amazing, which is nice, not cold. So hopefully it continues a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's finally getting nicer out here. I mean, we had a few nice days, then of course we had a week of being cold again, but you could feel the sun getting stronger, so that's nice. I am a little sad that I'll be pregnant for the whole summer, basically, because I'm due at the end of August. So no fun summer drinks for me. Nothing. I'm gonna be just fat, big, and hot.
Hopefully be able to find a pool to float in towards the end.
I don't think I know anyone with a pool. I'm gonna buy one of those like blow up pools and just fill it with a hose and sit in it. Yeah. I mean, even though I'm complaining, obviously I'm very grateful, blessed, whatever the people said.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so now that we're done talking about my pregnancy, let's get into this episode about fetish murders.
So inappropriate.
Did you want to talk about the Johnny Gosh poll before?
Yeah. So our last episode, well, it's not really, is it no, I guess 2 episodes ago now when this one comes out, was about Johnny Gosh. But so we posted online about it, and we did a poll asking if people really thought that Johnny had visited his mother, Noreen. Just a little quick background. If you didn't listen to the episode, you should go back. It's only a few episodes ago. But basically, Johnny went missing when he was 12 in 1982, and his mother, Noreen, says that in 1997, Johnny came to visit her and basically told her he was all right and he was in hiding from the people who had taken him. And that's been discussed a lot online over the years. So we did a poll asking what people thought, and I thought that the answers were very interesting. So obviously with a poll, you can only do a few options. So we said basically, did Johnny visit Noreen? The options were yes, Johnny visited in 1997. No, it was someone pretending to be Johnny. No, the meeting never happened, as in she either made it up or she dreamed it or she thinks it happened, but it didn't happen. And other was the last response. So
I'd love to know what the other
yeah,
is.
me too. And yeah, I guess people just have their own theories about what happened, and they don't quite fit into those three main options. But 31% of people said they do believe that Johnny visited Noreen. 33% said they think it was someone pretending to be Johnny. 27% said the meeting never happened, and 9% were other. So that was over 1,000 responses. I thought it was interesting. So it's a pretty even split between the three about what people think happened. Someone did say that they believed that Noreen dreamed it and believed it was real, which I don't think we really kind of mentioned that in the episode, which I think could actually be what happened too. Yeah, I guess it's one of those cases where there's been so much publicity, so many different angles, and if an angle makes
people
sense
love
to
arguing
someone,
about it.
Yeah, like even we only had one kind of critical review saying, they believe Johnny had been trafficked, and we said in the episode, absolutely that could have been a possibility. I think we mainly said that we just didn't think he was probably still alive and coming to visit Noreen. I feel like it's one case that people either know a lot about or know nothing about, and the people who know a lot are very, very passionate about what they think happened. I just found the poll very interesting because usually our polls are like 90% one way and the others the other. So I just found that it was quite interesting that it was a very even split for all three options.
Yeah, someone else did message me on my personal Instagram and was telling me more about the town and how there's like some other shady type of sex trafficking organizations in the town. I'll have to go back and find it because I still am meaning to read about it. So once I read about it, I'll post something about it. But apparently there is some other like kind of sketchy things going on in that area. Another thing someone messaged me, which I thought about this while editing, so I didn't say it on the podcast, but at the end, towards the end, we were saying how Paul Bonacci was saying, like, yeah, like he's definitely alive. I've seen him multiple times. He has a family. If he comes forward, like they'll kill him. And so I was like editing, and I'm like, if Paul Bonacci was in the same situation, he's been running his friggin' mouth for years, and no one's come for him.
Yeah.
So someone else messaged me and said that too. And they're like, well, why is Paul not afraid? And I was like,
and someone else raised the point. Like Paul said, I think, like I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember, but he said he'd seen him at least like 10 times in his life. So, and the last time was in 2018 as of 2023. So like, well, why is Johnny all right to visit Paul, who has dangerous connections, or, see Paul? Whereas, anyway, I just feel like there's so many questions. The people who believe that he really did visit Noreen are very passionate about it. It could have happened. I just find it probably pretty unlikely myself, personally.
I personally feel like Paul, I know like we don't have to get into this again because we talked about it, but just because I've thought about it more since then, I do still think that Paul definitely went through some traumatic stuff in his life and that some of what he's saying could be true. I do think he could have seen Johnny and maybe even been there when he was kidnapped. But I do think a lot of the story could, like, parts of it are definitely fabricated and he's been just running with it this whole time. So, not saying he's lying. I just think it's not all accurate.
Someone also suggested that because, as we mentioned, Paul had a really shitty childhood. He was abused. He was molested. That maybe he is not so much doing this to Noreen, but kind of keeping or perpetuating the story with Noreen because he desires a mother figure or desires someone to need him. Like there's all those kind of reasons that maybe, which is because everyone's like, what motivation would Paul have to keep this story going? There could be some underlying factors there in why he keeps perpetuating this if it's not true.
Could also just make him feel like he has some purpose, like he's helping the situation. So I don't know. Either way, sad story all around. I do think Paul went through some bad things. Obviously, we don't even know what happened to Johnny, but it does seem like there was something very bad going on.
Yeah. And in response to the person who said that we basically denied trafficking, we didn't. And we even mentioned that there was the other cases that were very similar and they were maybe likely connected. I have no doubt that there was something shady and suspicious going on in that area. My personal theory is that he's probably not alive any longer after whatever happened to him.
Yeah, it's probably because I said I don't believe any of it, but really what I meant was I'm very suspicious on what Paul is saying, and I don't think he's necessarily a credible narrator.
Witness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Today's episode is sponsored by Nutrafol. This year, there's nothing holding you back from loving your hair again. Hair is so much more than what you can see on the surface. It's a reflection of what's happening inside. Let Nutrafol target the key root causes of your thinning hair and help you to grow stronger, healthier strands from within. I feel like there's nothing better sometimes than just having a good hair day, where your hair falls just right, looks great, you're so happy with it. It can just really, really, really boost your confidence for the day.
Yeah, totally.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
While many supplements rely solely on ingredient studies, Nutrafol clinically tests final formulations to ensure their efficacy. In a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after taking Nutrafol women hair growth supplements for 6 months. Building a hair growth routine is simple. Purchase online, no prescription required. Automated deliveries and free shipping keep you on track. Plus, with a Nutrafol subscription, you can save up to 20%. You'll have access to free naturopathic doctor consults, and a Headspace meditation membership is included. Start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter promo code TCS. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code TCS. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code TCS. Okay, so we'll get into our topics of this episode. We're going to be talking about fetish crimes, like I said. Thank you to Sabrina for suggesting this episode topic. It's something unique, very interesting. We haven't done one like this before.
Very niche.
It is, but you found some good ones to talk about. They're crazy. First one we're going to talk about is California wife and mom of 3, Michaela Rylaarsdam, who is 31 years old. She has been arrested and charged over the death of Michael Dale, who is 55. The death happened in 2023, and she's just been charged with this now, so it's been going on for a bit. And it's alleged that his death happened following a consensual BDSM session that Michael paid for. So in terms of background on the people involved, there isn't actually a ton available yet. I don't know if as the story kind of goes out more, if there'll be more. So Michaela's Instagram very recently disappeared. It was open until last week or so.
Until the news came out about her arrest. So she had a bunch of Instagram accounts. She basically had her normal Instagram account where she posted a ton of photos of her kids and her husband. I think the last one was February, like a Valentine's Day post where she kind of made a montage of photos of the kids. Looked like a very vanilla, wholesome family. They had beach photos. There was photos of her and her husband at a baseball game or some type of stadium game. Looks like a normal Instagram. She did have, or does, I guess, still have a bunch of other Instagrams. I have been referring to them as her spicy accounts. They are private, so you can't see much, but she has basically alter egos online. She had a bunch of Instagram accounts. So once the news about her arrest came out, the main account especially was locked down and is now private, so you can't see anything on there. In terms of the background, when we were discussing this in our Facebook group, some people were saying there were divorce documents online for Michaela and her husband. Her current husband is Brandon. The documents, as far as I can tell from what I can decipher from them, are actually not divorce documents. They are documents for a name change for maybe her oldest son. So I think possibly the oldest son may not be the biological son of her current husband. That's what I've deduced anyway. So if you Google her name, there are some court documents from 2020 that come up. But from what I can gather, it is just a name change because she likely married Brandon around that time.
Yeah. And so they were all living in Orange County, California. It's like Olivia just saying, Michaela had a pseudonym for her spicy online life. She was known as Ashley Sincal. She spelled Ashley with a double S for ass. Get it? I actually didn't get it the first time I read it because I was just like skimming through. But now I'm like, I see. Brandon is said to have helped her run these like business accounts. She had 11,000 followers on that Instagram, and she also had an OnlyFans account under that name as well.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of screenshots. Like one of her other names was Claire Blake, and her her at handle is bedtime with Claire Blake. She said, "Hey guys, planning a special live stream. If you want to see it, let me know." So, and she's dressed as kind of like a cat. She's got like cat ears and like a nose paint and things like that. So, yeah, I feel like a lot of people are kind of incredulous that her husband knew about this and enabled this, but it seems like she was probably making a very lucrative living from it. He definitely knew about it. I feel like people can't believe that, but I guess, why
I
not?
feel like it's not that weird nowadays.
No, definitely not.
Especially if they're making like a lot of money off of it.
Yeah.
Like she needs an employee.
Yeah.
So in 2023, a man from Escondido, California, named Michael Dale, who is 55, contacted Michaela through an online advertisement for an escort business. They texted back and forth in March and April 2023. One request that Michael made was for Michaela to wrap him in saran wrap like a mummy. He also requested that Michaela glue women's boots to his feet and put his head in a plastic bag. I want to know more about gluing the boots to the feet, like the inside or the outside.
I'm assuming so. So he couldn't take them off, and he would be
so he couldn't take them off.
Yeah, like he would be forced to walk around in them until they came off. Like I feel like it's kind of like almost a humiliation type fetish thing.
Humiliation kink.
Yeah.
He agreed to pay Michaela more than $11,000 in exchange for her services. And Michaela later told investigators that she had not engaged in fetish behavior before this incident. Michaela and Michael, I don't like that they have like the same name.
I know. I didn't even, when I was writing, I didn't even realize that until now I was saying it. I didn't
either. Michaela and Michael met on Monday, April 17th, 2023, around 6 p.m., and Michael appeared intoxicated. But despite that, Michaela decided to spend the next several hours with him and engaged in fetish behavior at his request, and that's per the affidavit. Michaela captured the encounter on her phone, and the footage showed that Michael had his head inside a plastic bag for 8 minutes, as well as other clips of him struggling to breathe after duct tape and the plastic bag and saran wrap were placed over his mouth. Michael's arms and legs had been bound with plastic, meaning that he was unable to remove the bag or the wrappings from his head himself. According to the San Diego Union Tribune, as Michael lay unresponsive, Michaela performed a sex act nearby, creating content for her OnlyFans page. So she was killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Sounds bad to say killing, but the OnlyFans footage was shot just moments before she ended up calling 911. And when authorities arrived, Michaela was performing CPR on Michael. The house that Michael was living in was a shared house. One female roommate said that Michael had been living there for under a week before his death, and she would later end up moving out because she was so traumatized by what happened. Imagine like this guy moves in and a week later he's like dead in some fetish like incident. Yeah. I'd be like, whoa.
My personal theory, which is probably getting ahead of ourselves, is that he maybe moved there specifically to carry out this. Like I've tried to find any information on him. I can't find a single photo of this guy or a confirmed photo anyway. I can't find any information about a guy that age who lived in the area. There is one possible realtor, but I wonder if he moved to the house because he knew that this was the area where Michaela would go to, and he moved there specifically for this reason.
Interesting.
I have a suspicion that may be why.
Yeah. Because, like, why else is a 55-year-old man, like, living in a share house? It seems that Michaela called for help and the roommates came out. One man said that he saw Michael on the floor wearing sweatpants. He was wrapped in plastic from the hips down. The man said that Michaela was super freaked out. Michael was taken to the hospital and he was declared brain dead the next day. His cause of death was linked to deprivation of oxygen to the brain, according to the coroner. The deputy district attorney told the San Diego Union Tribune that the evidence showed that he hired her to perform bondage acts and fetish acts. There's no indication that he asked her to obstruct his breathing, asked her to put tape over his mouth, asked her to put a plastic bag over his head. So now, almost 2 years later, Michaela has been charged with second-degree murder, which means she allegedly showed a conscious disregard for human life rather than first-degree murder, which must show the express intent to kill. To prove a second-degree murder charge, prosecutors have the burden to prove that the defendant had implied malice, that she intentionally committed an act, and the natural and probable consequences of that act were dangerous to life. The person had to have known it was dangerous, and that even if she didn't intend to kill, she deliberately acted with conscious disregard for life. The DA noted that the bag, which he said had additional tape around it, was there for at least 8 minutes. He said, "I can say the case was investigated thoroughly, and the investigators left no stone unturned." Michaela's attorney said the evidence will show that she caused 911 to be called, gave CPR, and cooperated with police. Her attorney said, "I think there was no intent to kill and no attempt to cover this up, and she acted appropriately when she realized this was a problem." He said consent is not necessarily a defense to homicide, but it is certainly a mitigating factor. There's definitely a consensual element, not only something he consented to, something he was actively seeking.
There's been a lot of discussion that I've seen online about the charges that she's facing. So she's facing second-degree murder. People are like, well, it should be like manslaughter. It should be something lesser. But in terms of what it means in California, I probably think it's an appropriate charge. It says that basically she showed conscious disregard for human life. She sat there performing whatever sex act while he couldn't breathe. I don't think
Also,
she meant to
anyone's
kill
got to
him.
know 8 minutes with a plastic bag over your head is like...
And especially when the DA speaks about the additional tape. It's not like he just had a bag over his head and it was, a little bit dangerous.
He couldn't yell for help.
He had additional tape secured around it. He was bound with plastic wrap around his arms and his legs, so he couldn't get out. I feel like I have no doubt that he consented to do this, but I also feel like she had a responsibility to know that this was likely going to be dangerous. It's like, there could be a million similar, well, not when I say similar scenarios, like even when you think about people who do drugs and like the Matthew Perry arrests, he knew what he was doing, he knew what he was taking, but then still people have been charged with it. You kind of have a responsibility or a duty of care if you are doing something with someone that could be potentially fatal.
Yeah, I agree. I think it sucks because I don't think she was like, I'm going to kill this guy. I hope he dies, whatever. I think it was just really dumb on her part. And now she's facing these murder charges. But I mean, it's like, come on, you taped his mouth shut so he couldn't like cry for help if he was like, hey, I actually can't, I'm going to die. There was no way for him to get out of it himself and to leave someone with a secured plastic bag over their head for 8 minutes. Obviously, they're going to pass out and go brain dead.
Yeah.
So I agree. It like sucks because second degree murder does sound harsh, but I agree that she just showed whatever the wording was, no regard for human life, basically.
And she basically participated in a situation, like any person with half a brain would know that this is a very dangerous situation. So she willingly participated. Like there's been a lot of comments too I've seen from people in the BDSM community who are like, you can tell that either A, she had no experience in this type
Which she didn't, apparently.
Yeah, so A, she had no experience, or B, she just had total disregard for it. So they said, there's things that you can do, like you have a time limit, like things like that. Whereas 8 minutes is clearly a very inappropriate time limit. That would be way too long, like 30 seconds maybe. I don't even know. Like there's ways that they could have done this in a safer manner and they didn't. They chose not to. So
also, like, I have no idea because I don't participate in the BDSM community, but maybe even signing like a waiver like they do before you do dangerous rides or something, like that you could die, things like that. But it's also like just a different scenario that really is basically the same, but just sounds more ridiculous. Like if I tied up someone's hands and legs with handcuffs or something and then threw them into the river because they asked me to, and then they drowned to death, and I was like, they drowned? Like, of course, you handcuffed their hands and feet. They couldn't swim. It's
even
like the
remember
same thing, but different.
I know it's not really the same, but it is a little bit. The cannibal episode we did where the man met with someone who wanted to die and like agreed to be killed. Like it comes to a point where you just can't agree to things that could be fatal because then it will turn out like this.
We just can't be doing that.
Yeah. I feel like too, a lot of people have said they wouldn't like to be on the jury. It is going to be a very interesting case.
Yeah.
If it goes to trial. I'm assuming it probably will. I've tried to find when she's next due in court. There's nothing really. Obviously it is a very sensationalist crime. There's a lot of focus on, being wrapped like a mummy, gluing the boots. It's a very, so most of the articles and the information I found focus on that rather than what will happen. She's in jail. She's being held there. She's not out on bond or bail or anything like that. So it'll be happening in the next few months, I'm assuming, especially because the investigation took almost 2 years. It sounds like they're quite confident in their case against her.
Yeah, I mean, it is sad. Like, she had, 3 kids, and I'm sure
Little
that
kids
she's
too,
not, like, a bad person, and it's not like she went out there with the intent to murder someone, but, I mean, she still took a life.
From the photos, I would say her kids are all 12 and under. Like, one is probably 3 or 4, and the oldest me. Like, I know I'm just guessing based on what the photos, but they are young kids. She's a young mother. It's horrible. Like, I feel like one of the nails in the coffin will be the fact that she created OnlyFans content while he lay there unresponsive. If it had have just been a situation where he wanted to be wrapped and things went wrong very quickly and she called 911, it may have been a different
because she,
scenario.
wasn't paying attention.
Or like if he was just lying there unresponsive, she didn't do anything for, what could have been a life-saving amount of time. So
yeah,
a very interesting case that's raised a lot of discussion, I guess, about responsibility. When do people take responsibility for their own actions? Like, where's his responsibility in this? I don't know. They're both equally as responsible, but I guess he paid the ultimate price.
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see how that one goes in court.
Definitely. All right, so the second case we are going to discuss today is the murder of Virginia woman Christine Banfield. Christine was murdered this happened in 2023 by her husband, Brendan. It's kind of confusing, but the murder was part of a plan so that he could be with the family's au pair. Her name is Juliana Perez Magalhaes. Brendan and Juliana used a fetish website to set up the scene prior to murder. So another man named Joseph Ryan, who they met on the fetish website, died as part of their plan. So I know it sounds confusing, but basically they tried to use this fetish website, and we'll get more into it, to set up a scene so it would look like a murder, but the man from the fetish website didn't realize what was going to happen. He just thought he was taking part in a consensual fetish act, but they used that as an excuse to set up a scene for murder.
Yeah, essentially they just looped in some poor random guy to frame the scene.
Yeah.
Tonight, residents in this Herndon community still puzzled by double homicide more than a year and a half ago. While no one wanted to go on camera today, they tell WSA9 it's startling how their neighbor, Brandon Banfield, is now charged in the death of his wife, Christine, and Joseph Ryan. Christine found stabbed in her bedroom. Around the bed on the floor was Ryan with 2 gunshot wounds, one to his face. The couple's au pair, Juliana Margulies, is already accused of killing Ryan, and now Brendan, a former IRS agent, now faces 5 charges for both of their murders.
We're extremely pleased that we've been able to bring this indictment, as this case has weighed heavily not only on the minds of the chief and I, but on the minds of our community.
Brendan and the au pair claimed he shot Ryan after he stabbed Christine. Officials say he told Juliana to grab another gun, which she used to shoot Ryan. They also say Ryan was in the home after responding to Christine on a website for sexual fetishes. But there are questions if Ryan was lured by someone else other than Christine.
To be clear, Brendan Banfield, then 38, and Christine Banfield, then 37, were married and living in a single-family home with their then 4-year-old daughter.
Authorities suggest Brendan and the au pair were involved in a scheme to get rid of Christine. Prosecutors claim they both were having an affair and swapped out their phones for new ones days before the attack, showing records how the two visited a gun range in Ashburn 2 months before the deadly incident. A few weeks later, Brandon bought a gun there, which prosecutors say Juliana used to kill Ryan. 8 months after their deaths, officials say the relationship continued. Framed photos of Brandon and the au pair could be seen in that same room he once shared with his wife.
As some background, Christine grew up on Long Island and graduated from Quinnipiac University with a nursing degree in 2007. Brendan studied accounting at St. Joseph's University on Long Island. He launched a children's math tutoring center in New York. The couple had 1 child together, a girl named Valerie, and in 2019, the family moved to Virginia. Christine worked as a nurse and patient advocate, and she was much loved by her patients. A man named Rodrigo, who was a patient of Christine's during COVID, spoke to the media after all of this. And he said, she was an angel for me. He'd been in a coma for weeks, and he said he woke up and saw Christine beside him. He said she shaved me and she helped me set up a Zoom call with my family. Brendan worked in the IRS criminal division as a special agent at the time of this incident. Christine told Rodrigo, her patient, that she and Brendan had been planning to hire an au pair from South America. Rodrigo said she wanted me to recommend restaurants in the area, and that was her personality. She wanted the au pair to feel at home. There are some online comments that indicate that Christine and Brendan had previously used the services of au pairs. They previously had a woman from Brazil live with them, and she and Christine became so close that Christine was in the woman's wedding party and Valerie was the flower girl. So seems like a very loving person, Christine does, very welcoming and accepting, trying to make their, helper feel at home in the new country, in their home. She seemed like a lovely person.
Yeah.
Christine was active on social media. She regularly posted in a neighborhood Facebook group seeking recommendations for a backyard landscaper. She looked for a doll hospital to repair her daughter's doll and a dog boarding facility for the family's husky. So Juliana started her living job with the Banfields in 2021. One of her friends said that she was excited to travel to America. The friend said Juliana wanted to travel and learn English. She was excited because she just graduated from nursing classes and was coming to live with a nurse, so they had so much in common. The friend said Juliana seemed so happy in Virginia. It was easy and everything was working perfectly. So she arrived in 2021. At some point after that, she started a sexual relationship with Brendan. By August 2022, according to the Deputy Commonwealth Attorney, Brendan was expressing his desire to be rid of his wife. Investigators would later discover that Juliana sent text messages to friends about her new love with Brendan. They also found photos of a trip that her and Brendan had taken together to New York City. And there was also lingerie they found. There's a photo. He is not wearing a top. It looks like she may also not be wearing any clothes. Like, you can't see anything, but basically they're kind of hugging, and it's a very clear photo of a couple.
Skeptical.
Yeah. So around December 2022, Juliana and Brendan went to a gun firing range to apparently check it out, and Brendan would return to the same place to buy a Glock pistol. The pair started to put together a plan to get rid of Christine so that they could be together.
The turkeys.
They're back.
They're outside. They're here.
In the weeks before February 2023, Brennan created a profile on FetLife, which is a website for bondage and roleplay enthusiasts. And this is where he met a man named Joseph Ryan, who was 39. As some more info about FetLife, this info is from esafety.gov.au. It says FetLife is a social network for the fetish/kink community. Once you set up a profile with biographical details and images, you can follow and message other users and add them as friends. So it kind of sounds like Tinder, or kind of a mix between Tinder and Facebook. You can find people in your area who you may want to meet up with to carry out these fetishes. But yeah, a dedicated, fetish social network. So Juliana and Brendan began to set up a meeting with Joseph. Juliana was posting as Christine during their communication. They used an encrypted messaging app, and Joseph agreed to meet with them for, quote, a consensual sexual encounter involving restraints used on her being Christine, her clothing being cut off with a knife, and other violent role play. So Christine agreed to meet up with Joseph on February 24th, 2023. So the plan of Brendan and Juliana was for them to stage a home invasion using Joseph as the perpetrator as the cover for Christine's murder. Brendan went to a nearby McDonald's and waited for Juliana to call to say that Joseph had arrived at their house. Juliana's original story was that she had left the house with Valerie at around 7 a.m. that day and they were headed for the zoo. She said that she turned around after she realized they had forgotten their lunch. She told investigators originally that when she arrived at the home, there was an unfamiliar car parked there. She said she called Christine, who didn't pick up, and then she called Brendan. Once he arrived, they entered the house through the basement with Valerie. Thankfully, they left Valerie in the basement and they went up to the second floor together. So thankfully, Valerie didn't witness any of this. Brendan allegedly told police he called out police officer before shooting Joseph in the head and stabbing Christine. Juliana shot Joseph after she saw him moving on the floor. This is all information that we now know, but Juliana called 911 at the time and reported that a friend was hurt. Brendan took the phone from her and said that he had fired his service weapon at a man who was stabbing Christine. So that was the story, that they had kind of broken in. Joseph was stabbing Christine, so Brendan had killed him. He said that, quote, an unknown male had entered his home and he had shot them. Juliana told detectives that Brennan had told her to get a second gun from the bathroom and he had given her the code to the gun safe. Juliana would say that she got the gun, and her lawyers would argue that she acted in self-defense to save the family and that she was also acting on Brendan's orders. When authorities arrived, Joseph was pronounced dead at the scene. Christine was stabbed in the upper body and she would soon die from her injuries. Investigators found no evidence of forced entry, and they described the scene at the home as horrific and appalling. They recovered all of the weapons, which was a knife and 2 guns from the scene. So nothing happened straight away. Police began investigating. I guess they kind of had to look into if this really was a home invasion, what really had happened. So the murders happened in February 2023. By October that same year, which was 8 months after Christine and Joseph were killed, authorities returned to the home to arrest Juliana. At that point, they found that she had moved her belongings into the master bedroom, and this is the same room where Christine was stabbed to death. Juliana's clothes were hanging in the closet and her lingerie was strewn around the bed. There was also a framed photo of her and Brendan on the bedside table. So they did nothing to hide this. I guess they really thought they'd gotten away with it. You know, you'd think that maybe you'd be a little bit hesitant for a little while in case they were looking into it. It just seems like they really thought they were home scot-free.
The whole plan is like crazy.
So yeah. Detectives also found out that Brendan had carried on multiple affairs during his marriage to Christine. The Deputy Commonwealth Attorney, Eric Klingen, said multiple credible women confirmed this fact, including one in particular who told them that during the course of her affair with him a few years ago, he had constantly promised to leave his wife. Eventually, he told her, as in this other woman, it would be much easier for us if she was not around. Eric, the Commonwealth Attorney, also said that forensic analysis indicated the scene had been staged. He said that Joseph's arms had been moved and smeared with Christine's blood, and that's according to the Associated Press. So there are a lot of photos from the house online. There is a photo you can see of Juliana and Brendan. Looks like they're at some type of game or something, event or something, somewhere anyway. And there's basically it's just them cuddling. There's a photo on the nightstand of them.
Yeah.
It was also found that Juliana called 911 at least 2 times on the morning of the murders. She ended those calls without speaking to the operator before they made the 3rd call, which is when they kind of made up their story about everything that had happened. In October 2023, Juliana was charged with second-degree murder in regards to Joseph's death. While she was in the Fairfax County Jail, authorities monitored phone conversations between her and Brendan. In one call, she said to him, "I hope you are not just staying with me because you are afraid I'm going to turn against you." Rookie mistake. In September 2024, so not too long ago, Brendan was indicted by a grand jury on charges of aggravated murder in the killings of both Christine and Joseph. At the time, John F. Carroll, who was Brennan's attorney, argued in court that the prosecution's narrative of what happened was not evidence of Brendan killing his wife. The attorney said, "It just doesn't add up, Judge," which I'm not sure how he came to that conclusion, but that was his argument. That same month, maybe not surprisingly, Juliana took a plea deal. She cooperated with prosecutors and pled guilty to manslaughter. Juliana was originally due to be sentenced after the plea deal on March 21, 2025, so just in the last week. She is facing up to 10 years in prison. Some reports say that her deal may have included cooperation in exchange for potentially being released from custody on time already served, which is wild to me. But anyway, she was due to be sentenced this week. Didn't happen, and it will not happen now until December 19th. We believe this is because Brennan's trial, which was originally scheduled for this month, or last month, February 2025, has now been pushed out to October 2025. Brennan is facing 4 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of use of a firearm in the commission of a felony in regards to both Christine and Joseph's deaths. He has also been charged with felony child abuse and neglect and felony child cruelty, and I am assuming this is because he purposely put Valerie at the scene, kind of maybe put her in danger. What if she had have gone up from the basement? I think that is where the child abuse and child neglect charges stem from.
Yeah.
His trial is expected to run for around a month if it does happen in October, and we do believe that Juliana's sentencing has been pushed out because from what I've read, her sentence may depend on the outcome of Brennan's trial. So if he's found guilty, she may get a higher sentence. If he's found not guilty, maybe, I don't know, whatever. But they have pushed out her sentencing now based on his new trial date.
I'm still confused by their plan and what happened is so confusing that I'm still confused. So Juliana, the au pair, was talking to Joseph, pretending to be the wife.
Christine, yep.
And set up this meeting. So
they set up a meeting so it would look violent. Like, so Joseph would come to the house and carry out consensual violence on Christine. Like, it was meant to look like
Christine
a robbery.
was just like in the house.
Yeah, and Christine,
showed up.
It sounds like she had no idea. Like, obviously now they're both dead, so we will never know probably what she thought, like why she let him into the house. Maybe he broke into the house as part of the plan, like to carry on this whole role play scenario.
That's where I was confused, because I was like, what happened in those like few, like how was he in the house? Like what did Christine think? What was she doing? May
learn more.
Juliana then went back to the house.
Yeah, we may learn more if it comes out of trial, but I suspect the scenario was something along the lines of Christine, the person that is his name Joseph?
Yeah.
Joseph? Yeah.
Fake Christine.
Fake Christine, the person that Joseph was speaking to, probably said something like, I'll leave this door open, come in through the door, I'll be up in the bedroom, because they would have known, for example, maybe Christine's routine was to get ready at that time because it was in the morning. And you do this to me and this and this and this. So Joseph believed he was there for a fetish encounter or some type of sexual encounter that was consented to by Christine. But the other two used it as an excuse to bust in on this specific home invasion and to kill them both.
Right. So, what a plan.
Yeah. I just can't even believe that they thought they could get away with it. What did they really think was going to happen? And especially, like, it's just so ballsy that Juliana moved all her stuff in while the case was still under investigation. I guess they just maybe
unhinged.
They hoped they were home scot-free.
Yeah, just to have like no remorse over that is just it's very, what is it, like white female, single white female?
Yeah.
People be like, oh, she's about to single white female her, where it's something like that, where you like take over their life, where you just start like posing as this other person essentially. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't even understand how they would have come up with this plan. Like, it just seems so unhinged, and honestly, like for creativity, I guess, but I feel like they left such a trail.
Yeah.
That it was obvious.
They kind of tried. They used an encrypted messaging
app. True. But even just like the pictures of them together, like they didn't really hide very well that they were together, which obviously is going to be like an immediate red flag as to what happened.
I feel I don't know, someone will probably not like this, but we posted another death it was another crime this week regarding a husband on Instagram, and someone wrote, I think the comment was like, why do men ? Like, why are men like this? Why like it's just so arrogant to think that you could get away with this. No one's going to investigate. He had multiple affairs. He's a garbage human. It's
like you can be a garbage human and have multiple affairs and just not murder someone.
Yeah.
Like you could just stop there.
Why just not get a divorce? Why? Like, I guess he would have had to give her some of the assets. I don't know. Like, I feel like 99% of the time the reason that people don't get a divorce is because it's financial.
Or ego.
Yeah.
Because they keep on putting out like that they have this picture perfect life, and like they have a happy family, and they have happy this, and everything's great and perfect, and they just don't want to like answer to anyone else, so they start living this double life, and then they're like, the only way out of it is if something tragically happens to my wife, and then also bonus, you're the victim and everyone's gonna feel sorry for you.
Yeah, and I'm guessing maybe there would be some life insurance at play, maybe, like there's,
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird that it seems like the easier option is to murder someone than just to get a divorce.
Yeah, that's why I think a lot of it just has to do with like ego and like public perception in a way too.
I feel like too, in this case, obviously Christine is a victim, but I feel like Joseph is almost a forgotten victim.
Yeah.
He did nothing wrong. He signed up to an app specifically
a consensual
sexual encounter where, you think you are seeking out the same thing as someone else. He did exactly what was asked of him. He turned up for what he thought was, just going to be a fun meetup, and he gets shot in order for these people to try and live the life they wanted. I feel like,
totally.
He is a forgotten victim in this case, it seems like.
That's what's sad too. Obviously there's no right to kill Christine, but there's some sort of motive there. With this guy, it's like it could have been anyone, just this poor random guy, no motive essentially, like nothing directed at him. he couldn't have changed anything. It was literally like a lottery to get murdered.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's sad because then I don't know if he was open about his fetish or whatever, but now all of his business is like also out there, and his family, if they care about that stuff, just having that business out there.
Yeah. Do we have anything else about that, or I could just say these?
And all for what? So that they can have their affair and be together. And now,
yeah. The other thing is Valerie now will probably have no parents. I'm assuming Brennan is going to go to jail for a very long time. Valerie has no mother, a father in jail. Like, it's just horrible.
And they think they're so smart, these people, but it's like, what did you think was going to happen? No one was going to notice that you were dating your au pair and then be like, that's kind of weird. Like, they were going to pull the card of like, I was going through such a hard time, and like, she was really there for me and supported me through the murder, like through the death of my wife. Like, people aren't stupid.
Oh no. What about, I just went on Facebook quickly. They're saying they might have found Lauren Spira.
Oh, really?
Well, they found bones, but I don't know. And it's near anyway.
It'll take a while to find out.
Yeah. All right. So surprisingly, I did find some BDSM crime stats. I wasn't sure what kind of studies would have been done, because I guess it's something that not a lot of people want to be open about or talk about, or it's a little bit harder to find, I guess, confirmed information.
Were we just talking about BDSM in our last episode too, though? Because I remember reading the acronym for some reason.
We did. We had, what was our last episode? Oh, it was probably, it was the truck driver serial killer. Because remember, he had the whips and chains.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
So there was a 2021 study from the National Library of Medicine, which I've linked on the blog if you want to read it. But they said basically they searched for non-natural deaths related to BDSM activity. 17 cases were found. The age of the deceased ranged from 23 to 49, with an average age of 35 years old. Strangulation in the course of erotic asphyxiation was the most common cause of death, and that was in 88% of cases. In 13 cases, a toxicology report for the deceased was mentioned, and in 8 of those cases, which was 61%, I know there's a lot of percentages here, but basically 61% of cases of these deaths, there was some type of drug or substance involved. It says in 9 of the cases, the level of experience in BDSM activity was described. So were they new to the activity? Were they experienced? And it says, and in all of them, the deceased and the partner were not new to BDSM play, which is interesting. It kind of goes against what we said about Michaela. I do wonder if she really had no fetish experience. That kind of goes against that. It says fatal outcomes of BDSM are rarer than autoerotic fatalities and natural deaths related to sexual activities. So I'm assuming that means something like a heart attack while having sex, something along those lines. So it is quite rare for them to be only able to identify 17 cases over a period of time for something that could be quite dangerous. But that, I think it goes back to what we mentioned. And people who are experienced, they usually know how to do these things more safely, have safe words, have time limits, have different things like that, based on whatever the activities they're participating in.
Yeah, I wonder if it's more rare for it to be like a newer person, maybe because they're more nervous and worried, so they're like checking on the person more, which obviously Michaela didn't do, and then maybe the more experienced people are willing to push the limits more.
The other thing I feel like we didn't really mention in the Michaela case, just to circle back quickly to that, is the fact that they said her partner or her sexual partner, Michael, appeared intoxicated. So I feel like that will also play a part. Where she turned up, he apparently was drunk or intoxicated on whatever substance. So therefore she should have probably pulled the pin there. But I'm assuming, like, and this goes along with this stat, 64% of the fatal cases had drugs or alcohol involved. I feel like a lot of the time it probably goes hand in hand, especially maybe for people who are newer to it because they have a few drinks to loosen up. They, whatever they're doing. I just feel like it's not surprising to me that drugs or alcohol were involved in the majority of cases. And it's just another discussion about if Michaela should have pulled the pin when he appeared intoxicated, or maybe he said to her something along the lines of, I'm going to have a few drinks, I'll be ready when you get here. We don't even know what the backstory is, but that will be another thing that the prosecution uses, I believe, to say that she had a duty of care to not take advantage of someone who was intoxicated.
But I wonder if the defense could also say, like, he was intoxicated and that could have contributed to his death on its own.
Yeah.
More so. I mean, granted, anyone with a plastic bag over their head for 8 minutes is probably not going to fare well, but I wonder if they could try to spin it that way of like, well, he was under the influence of whatever, and that didn't help things.
Yeah. I will be interested to see his toxicology if they release it. I know that the coroner or the medical examiner did say his death was basically due to deprivation of oxygen, but I do wonder what else was in his system.
Yeah, definitely. I want to see how that one turns out.
Yeah. Hopefully, like, yeah. I wish I could find a court date. If anyone does know it, please send me a message. I've looked and looked. I can't see it on court records. I can't see anything like that. So if you do know when she's due in court next, let us know.
Yeah. All right, but that is it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was a different topic. It was very interesting. We try to think of some different things here and there just to keep it interesting, I guess.
I did when I was doing the notes for this one, I did think, wow, this is going to end up being really good timing because Juliana was due to be scheduled right before this episode, right before this episode would have been recorded, but it wasn't to be. So we'll have to give you an update when that happens, hopefully at the end of the year.
Yeah. So everything will be on our blog at truecrimesocietyblog.com. Check it out there. Make sure you're following us on Instagram. We're always posting updates on our Instagram about different cases. There's been more Brian Koberger stuff coming out, Moscow stuff. I said this last time. We'll compile like the latest updates again and do another type of update episode. But we post them there as well on Instagram as they come out. So if you're interested in that, definitely follow us on Instagram. If you want to follow our personal accounts, mine's StephSum_, Olivia's TCS Olivia. And check us out on Patreon because that's kind of where we are able to post more of like talk about more of the littler updates, especially like the Moscow updates here and there. It's not enough for like a whole episode. Talk about more current little ongoing things, more about our personal lives if you're interested. And no ads, everything's ad free. And we do extra bonus episode every week, so you get 2 episodes a week.
If you must have nearly 90 up there now, because I know we were above 80 last time we spoke about it, so it must be close to 90 now.
Yeah, so if you're going on like a big trip or something coming up and you're like, I need to listen to a lot of podcast episodes, if you join our Patreon, you'd get access to the whole backlog of bonus episodes, which, as Olivia just said, is probably around 90 episodes. So check it out. And all the usual stuff. Leave us some nice comments on Spotify or whatever platform. Make sure you're still subscribed, please. Like, it's a huge help to us when you actually subscribe or follow or whatever on whatever platform you listen on, because Apple likes to unsubscribe you after a bit. So just always double check. They like to make the decision for you.
And thanks again to, like, especially I feel like in the few days after our episode is released, we get a ton of Spotify comments, and I really enjoy reading them. And we really, really appreciate that you guys take the time to leave us a comment and tell us what you think about the episode, or if you have any questions or thoughts. We really appreciate that.
Yes, and we love when you guys share to your Instagram stories, like what you're doing when you're listening to the podcast. Some of you make like such pretty stories. We love resharing them. It's a big help to us because it's a great way to get the word out to other people. So keep doing that, and that's it, I think. So thank you guys for listening. Thanks for being here. We love you all. Stay safe. Peace out.
See ya.